the Menagerie. Let's talk about some movies.
No Hard Feelings stars Jennifer Lawrence and is directed by Gene Stupnitsky, the director of another fun R-rated comedy, Good Boys. Both films have their flaws, but I gotta hand it to this guy for getting mid-budget comedies made by studios that these days prefer to only make $500 million blockbusters. No Hard Feelings is charming, intentionally cringy, and surprisingly refreshing to see J-Law stretch her acting chops onto the funny side. Turns out, fellas, women can do it too.
Huh? Who would've thought? Not me!
Plus, there's that one scene that let's just say those kids from Good Boys would probably get a kick out of. This one does get a few knocks for being pretty predictable, and I never really bought the chemistry between Jennifer Lawrence and Andrew Feldman or any of their emotional moments, but it's an easy enough watch. Except for that throat punching scene, that's like one of my biggest fears. Ugh.
Oh, fuck! We should go.
If you take one look at this channel, it's probably obvious that I really like this movie. The first one still holds the top spot, pun intended, but this sequel is undeniably a good movie with equally batshit visuals. Between the mood ring watercolors of Gwen's universe to the Indrajal comic inspired colors of Mumbattan, the richness of animation is like overdosing on chocolate cake. Just so much eye candy in every frame. The second viewing, I did find myself kind of wanting to fast forward through the slower, usually somber dialogue scenes to get to the playfully inventive action scenes, or anything with the spot, played wonderfully by Jason Schwartzman. Shameik Moore still gives Miles a lot of that iconic Spider-Man cheeky playfulness, but a little more mature this time around. And all 1 billion of the new characters are perfect additions, although I did kind of miss the old gang too a little bit. Hopefully the animators are given plenty of time to work on the third installment, but once it's out, this could end up being one of the best movie trilogies of all time. I'll make this quick. I rewatched this before checking out the new sequel, and it has some fun moments, but this is definitely middle to lower tier Marvel. Brie Larson and the character of Carol Danvers are unlikably stiff. The jokes don't hit, and the action scenes are pretty uninspired. Although the Stan Lee intro and Mallrats script moment is still one of the best things to see in the MCU as a lifelong Kevin Smith fan, but Captain Marvel is just one of those action films you can put on in the background while doing the dishes, just like the 90s soundtrack that it uses. It has some glimmers, but never learns to glow. Also feels too much like military propaganda. I mean, this looks like a straight up ad for the Air Force. Thankfully, the sequel is pretty much the opposite. Now stay with me, I know superhero fatigue is in full effect and most of you are probably sick of these movies. I get it. And this one isn't going to make you suddenly fall in love with them, but unlike the first, you will walk out with a smile and also wonder, was that an anti-imperialist critique of American foreign policy? Thanks to the charming leads, this might be the funniest MCU movie since the first Guardians or Thor Ragnarok. The Marvels takes all the overly serious problems of the first Captain Marvel and flips it into a straight-up action buddy comedy where Iman Vellani gives a show-stealing performance as Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel. I've watched the Miss Marvel series twice, and seeing her family carry over the roles and dynamics was just wonderful. Them, Kamala, and Sam Jackson's Nick Fury had me and my audience cracking up. Carol Danvers is still kind of the least interesting part of her own movie, and some of the CGI is a little rubbery because Marvel's been killing its VFX teams, but the fight scenes definitely have much better choreography this time around. The overall plot is another generic stop the bad guy before the universe explodes or whatever, but the charm and chemistry of the three leads plus a planet-hopping space adventure with a touch of socio-political commentary was worth the thankfully shorter runtime. David Fincher, Hollywood's edgelord director, brings us The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender as a professional hitman with an obsessive attention to detail based on a graphic novel of the same name. After getting mind-freaked by Mindhunter and enjoying a little manky-panky, I was excited for Fincher's next collaboration with Netflix, but a little let down. While Fincher usually has a stabbing sociological theme, The Killer is a straightforward thriller to a fault, with mostly one character and a drab narration. There are cool moments like the camera switching from static to handheld anytime he loses control, but the moody cinematography and despondent performance by Fassbender didn't offer much that we hadn't seen 1,000 times before, even from Fincher himself. There are some cool moments that comment on society's ease of access to some scary technology, but it feels like Fincher trying to do a Soderbergh movie, and I'd rather just watch Kimmy if I want to see a sleek thriller about a neurotic loner. If it wasn't for the name, I think the majority of people would skip this one. Speaking of killers, Martin Scorsese's latest crime epic touches on the United States' greed for oil and the groups of people she's willing to destroy for it. The film is shot mostly at eye level with what feels like a regular old 35mm lens, giving the most human perspective to convey the feeling that you're actually there witnessing these crimes against United States indigenous peoples. Lily Gladstone is fantastic as the Osage Molly, opposite the white robber barons Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, who are perfect as always, which we probably take for granted at this point. I don't want to give too much away, but if you know history, you know this isn't going to be a happily ever after ending. This might be one of Scorsese's best films, but that's not saying much when the dude cranks out masterpieces like a TikToker cranks out dance videos. Just make sure you pee beforehand, and hopefully this inspires people to open up a history book. This is a cute anime with a touch of darkness from Makoto Shinkai, who also wrote and directed the fantastic film Your Name, which, not to get ahead of things, but I personally might prefer. Weathering With You is a young love story about a boy who befriends an orphan that can control the weather. And fun fact, is one of the first anime features released in India thanks to online fan demand. As a person who loves the rain, I really enjoyed the vibe of this movie, and the sounds of thunderstorms throughout is just really soothing. For a chill time, press play. Hayao Miyazaki is going to go down as one of the greatest artists and filmmakers of our time, and his newest film, The Boy and The Heron, is another masterpiece from the maestro. It might be his most ambitious one yet, and that's saying something considering Homie's backlog of epic fantasies. Juxtaposing the World War II setting with magical realism reminded me thematically and visually of a Guillermo del Toro film, like Pan's Labyrinth. This is one of those films, animated or not, that you just need to see for yourself and not let some arbitrary grading system decide for you. Thanks for watching.